What if I told you a man was lost at sea, not for days, not for weeks, but for 438 days, completely alone? No land, no rescue, just endless ocean, and his own mind slowly turning against him. And the most disturbing part? Some people still don't believe his story is entirely true. This is not just survival, this is something deeper, something psychological, something almost impossible. Because what happens to a human when they are completely cut off from the world for over a year? This is the story of José Salvador Alvarenga, and it gets darker the longer you listen. In November 2012, a small fishing boat left the coast of Mexico. Two men were on board, José Salvador Alvarenga, an experienced fisherman, and a young assistant named Ezekiel. The plan was simple: go out for a routine fishing trip, return in a day or two, but the ocean had other plans. Within hours, a violent storm swallowed them. Waves rose like walls. The sky disappeared into darkness. Their engine failed, and just like that, they were no longer fishermen. They were drifting, completely lost. At first, they believed someone would find them. That's what most people think in survival situations. This'll pass. It won't last long. But time began to stretch. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and slowly, hope started to rot. Food ran out quickly, so they adapted. They caught fish with their bare hands. They ate raw turtles. They drank rainwater when it came, and when it didn't, they drank their own urine. Let that sink in. This wasn't survival like you see in movies. This was desperation, the kind that strips away everything human. But the real horror wasn't physical, it was psychological. Because when you are trapped with no escape, your brain starts doing something strange. It starts turning inward, creating thoughts, fears, even illusions. And this is where the story changes. After months at sea, Ezekiel began to break. He couldn't accept their reality. He stopped eating, stopped drinking. He lost the will to survive. Alvarenga tried to force him, begged him to stay alive, but something inside Ezekiel had already shut down. And one day, he died. Just like that. Gone. Now imagine this. You're alone in the middle of the ocean with a dead body and no idea when or if you'll ever be saved. What would you do? Alvarenga made a decision. He kept the body with him for days. He talked to it. Yes, talked to it, because the silence was worse than death. Eventually, he let the body go into the ocean, but the loneliness stayed, and it grew. This is where most people would lose their mind, and many experts say they would. In fact, studies on isolation, including extreme experiments in real-life cases, show that the human brain cannot handle long-term solitude without consequences. People start hallucinating, they hear voices, they lose their sense of time, reality begins to blur. And yet, Alvarenga survived for over a year. But here's where things get controversial, because not everyone believes him. Some people think his story is exaggerated. Others believe there are parts he never told. And when you look closely, you start to see why. 438 days at sea is almost beyond human limits. Even trained survival experts struggle to explain it. Yes, it's technically possible, but the mental endurance required? That's something else. Because survival is not just about food and water, it's about not giving up. And statistically, most people do. So what kept him alive? Alvarenga claims he created routines, he talked to himself, he imagined people, he prayed, he forced his brain to believe that he wasn't completely alone, and this connects to something deeply psychological. The human brain is not built for isolation, it needs connection, even if that connection is imaginary. That's why people in extreme solitude often create companions in their mind, not because they're crazy, but because it's the only way to stay sane. And here's the twist. Some psychologists believe this might be the exact reason he survived, not in spite of his hallucinations, but because of them. His mind may have saved him by bending reality. Months passed, the ocean became his entire universe. No past, no future, just survival. Until one day, land appeared. January 2014, a small island in the Pacific Ocean, Alvarenga washed ashore, weak, broken, but alive, after 438 days. When rescuers found him, they couldn't believe it. Doctors examined him, his story spread across the world. Media called it a miracle, one of the greatest survival stories ever recorded, but not everyone was convinced. Critics started asking questions. How did he survive that long? Why didn't he suffer more severe physical damage? Was everything he said actually true? Some even suggested darker possibilities. What really happened during those months at sea? Because when survival reaches that level, the line between truth and what people are willing to admit becomes very thin. There's a psychological concept called survival rewriting. It means when people go through extreme trauma, their brain reshapes memories, not necessarily to lie, but to protect them, to make the story easier to live with. So the question becomes, did Alvarenga tell the full truth, or the version his mind could handle? And here's what makes this story so powerful. It's not just about the ocean, it's about the human mind. Because most people think survival is physical, strength, endurance, skill, but in reality, it's mental. When everything is stripped away, food, comfort, human contact, what's left is you, your thoughts, your fears, your ability to keep going, or not. And that's why this story fascinates millions of people. On platforms like YouTube, Reddit, and X, people debate it endlessly, not just because it's shocking, but because it forces a question most of us avoid. What would I do? Would you survive, or would your mind give up first? Because the truth is, most people don't die from lack of resources, they die from losing hope. And hope is a fragile thing. Alvarenga didn't just fight the ocean, he fought something far more dangerous: isolation, madness, the slow collapse of reality. And somehow he won. But maybe not completely, because surviving doesn't mean escaping unchanged. Some experiences stay with you, quietly, permanently. So next time you feel uncomfortable being alone, even for a few hours, remember this: there was a man who faced silence for 438 days. And the scariest part wasn't the ocean, it was what the silence was doing to his mind. And maybe the real mystery isn't how he survived, but what it truly cost him to come back.